Professor of law at American University's Washington College of Law. He joins us now from Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for being with us. I mean, we knew that both parties had just lawyered up going into this election, but it sounded like, you know, the areas that they could really fight over were, one of them was going to be Pennsylvania that we just heard from, which we're now seeing might not really count for much at all. So tell us where the issue of legal challenges to the voting tallies stands now.
Yes. Well, very quickly, I've been listening to the Democratic calls, and they think that Joe Biden's on a clear path to victory because of Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and will not need Pennsylvania at all. But of course, it would add to his support. And what they've been saying is that this is not an election for the president to call, either candidate to call. It's an election for the American people to call when they have their votes counted. And state law, elections are run under state law, and varies by state, but it provides that as long as a vote is validly cast by election day, in many states, it can be counted as long as it's received timely within whatever the deadline is, 3 days, 6 days, 7 days, in some cases up to 2 weeks after the election. And so that's what they're fighting about. The Trump people want validly cast votes not to be counted, which is completely undemocratic. And the Democrats have won in Pennsylvania, for example, every single lawsuit that the Trump people have filed trying to keep people from being able to vote, because the president's only chance is to try to keep those mail ballots from being counted. It's very anti-democratic.
What's so strange about it, though, I mean, just because of the Electoral College that, you know, Trump really flip-flop on, he loves the institution now, even though he said it was so undemocratic years ago. Because of the Electoral College, this vote count is about the state's individual election authorities counting all their votes at whatever pace they need to under the laws that already exist. So how was it even possible for the president at the federal level to, you know, to threaten the actual vote count or say that he wants it stopped in various states?
Well, he said we're going to the Supreme Court. Of course, you can't get to the Supreme Court unless you file a lawsuit somewhere else in state court, federal court, and it begins to make itself through the federal court process. These kinds of disputes really should be solved by state courts under the state constitution using state law, and then they try to get into federal court by claiming that there are some kind of constitutional violations that they have to try to allege. But of course, the fundamental right to vote is also a constitutional right, and so there are equities on the other side as well. These are attempts to try to stop valid votes from being counted, and the lawyers on the Biden side think that they will have absolutely no success in trying to be able to do that. The challenge is this: that because we're voting in a pandemic, states liberalize their opportunity to vote by mail. In some cases, that was done by legislatures. In other cases, that was expanded by court decisions. And then there was this question about what the deadline would be for when those ballots had to be received. In some cases, it was extended by legislatures, understanding they would have many more absentee ballots, that the post office was delaying the delivery of mail, so you might need a few extra days so you didn't disenfranchise someone because the incompetence of the postal system. And so these deadlines were sometimes moved by election commissions, sometimes by legislatures, sometimes by court decisions trying to support the right to vote under state constitutions. And what the Trump lawyers are trying to say is, in all those instances, we're going to challenge the decision to move the deadline, even though voters voted, believing, having been told that the deadline was, as long as it was delivered within 3 or 7 days, whatever it was. In Pennsylvania, it was 3 days. As long as it was cast by election day and received within 3 days, it would be counted. That's how voters voted. And now the Trump people are trying to say, who agreed to that, by the way, who agreed to those rules, are now saying, oh, no, we want to throw out any ballot that comes in after election day, because they know that 3/4 of them will be for Joe Biden.
Can't have it both ways. Okay, Luis Caldera, thank you so much for joining us there. We appreciate it.